Versatile Mage. Chapter 31 Delightful Swearing. Mo Fan, you shameful thing. What are you saying? Immediately apologize to Mr. Mu Juoyan. Mu, he said with great anger. Was this Mo Fan stupid beyond redemption or something? He even had the guts to act like this in front of Mu Juoyan. Was his family tired of living? Apologize. Of course I will. However, he must also apologize to me regarding the matter from 3 years ago. Don't think you can scare me with your high cultivation and authority. This Mu Juoyan used his cultivation to bully me, a student who hasn't even turned 18 yet. Let's put it like this. If you were the same age as me, I would be able to beat you up real good. Mo Fan's fearless gesture was currently being displayed in great detail. Bullshit. Mu Juoyan was getting really pissed off by this bastard kid, so much so that he directly began to swear. When Mu Juoyan was at Mo Fan's age, even though his talent may not have matched Mu Ningshui's, he was still a genius. Naturally, he didn't place any of the students within Tianlan Magic high in his eyes. Mo Fan, you really are shamelessly daring. Don't even mention Master Mu Juoyan when he was young. We could randomly grab a core disciple from the current Mu family and he'd be able to beat you down with a single move. That's right, we don't even need to use core disciples. Mu Bai, could duel you in magic. If you lose, then you must kneel down and apologize to Master Mu. At this time, Mu Bai jumped at the chance to be used as a dog by Mu Juoyan. Mu Bai and Mo Fan were peers. It would be a fair duel. Let's see what other excuses you'll have, thought Mu Bai. With this, Mu Bai planned to beat Mo Fan and ease Master Mu Juoyan's resentment. Not necessary. Just as Mu Bai was about to step up bravely, an icy, arrogant voice resounded. Everyone's gaze immediately turned toward the speaker. The person who had spoken was none other than Mu Ningzu. Who would have imagined she would make a move at this time? Mu Ningzu stepped between her father and Mo Fan. Her gaze was like an ice mountain, carrying a bit of anger directed naturally at Mo Fan. Since you said my father only knows how to bully the younger generation, since you said that my father used his authority to suppress you, and you relied on your own cultivation to develop your magic. In that case, I'm the same age as you, I'll compete with you. Mu Ningshui's tranquil voice carried an icy power. Ningzu. After Mu Juoyan saw his own daughter step forward, the anger on his face changed into astonishment. Mo Fan, seeing that it was Mu Ningzu facing him, smiled as though he'd rather die than surrender. Interesting, even Mu Ningzu came forth, he thought. The truth was, facing someone worthless like Mu Bai was meaningless. Mo Fan had already stomped on him earlier today. However, Mu Ningzu was credited as the #1 girl genius of Bo City and a blessed daughter of the heavens within the imperial institution. Having her duel him would be much more interesting. Ningzu, I am enough to deal with this guy. There's no need for you to, Mu Bai promptly said with a smile. My father has been thoroughly humiliated. My father can be magnanimous and not bother with this sharp-tongued little thief. However, I, as his daughter, simply will not let the person who has humiliated my father off. We'll settle it with an impartial magic duel. Every word from Mu Ningzu was sincere, with no hesitation in her voice. Good. Well said. This icy, lofty, and unyielding character makes us, the older generation, very gratified. As expected of the #1 genius of Bo City, having an outstanding talent at such a young age while being able to distinguish between right and wrong. School director Deng Kai immediately began praising her. After praising her, Director Deng Kai also patted Mu Juoyan's back. Brother Juoyan, having you deal with this rude kid is not necessary at all. Naturally, you can't return to when you were 16 to duel him and prove whether he's better than you were at that age. It's better to let your daughter Mu Ningzu take your place in this matter and silence this kid who does not know the immensity of heaven and earth. Mu Juoyan didn't say anything. He just stared at Deng Kai. As Deng Kai saw Mu Juoyan control his temper, he smiled slightly before turning to Mo Fan. Mo Fan, right. As the person in charge of the Hunters Union within Bo City, I really am not sure whether your actions today can be described as being young and inexperienced, or simply stupid. However, you should apologize to Mu Juoyan for your hot-headed action. The contributions he has made to Bo City are far beyond what you can comprehend. Apologize. That's not a problem. I can cover my entire body in thorns and use the most traditional method, kowtowing, to apologize to him. I'll even kowtow until he's satisfied. However, are the Mu family in the right to have me apologize to them? Go ask them about what they said to my family 3 years ago. If I were to apologize, it would only be after they have apologized for the matter 3 years ago. Since he is a respected person of Bo City, then they should know better than to provoke nobodies. You can slap a nobody to death with a single palm, but before they get slapped to death, they would definitely curse you until your brain breaks. Mo Fan said without inhibition. This is a society ruled by law. How could this kind of thing happen? At most, we'd just expel you, the principal said, creasing his eyebrows. All right, since things have come to this point, then it's not as difficult to deal with as I thought. We'll do as Mu Ningzhu said. She will have a magic duel with you. If you lose, then you will have to apologize until Mu Juoyan is satisfied. If Mu Ningzhu loses, Deng Kai paused and looked toward Mu Juoyan. Mu Juoyan said in a cold voice, "How could Mu Ningzhu? You don't need to spout so much garbage, just say if you dare or not." Mo Fan's tone was sharp as a dagger. Dignity wasn't something grander just because you were from an aristocratic family. Even more so when your own family was homeless, miserable, and lower than dirt. Mo Fan was just a nobody who sought revenge for his grievance. Have him join the Mu family. Mo Fan could never forget the words Mu Juoyan had spoken 3 years ago, as if disciplining a dog. He could never forget that he was responsible for making them homeless. If he were eager to return just because Mu Juoyan threw him a bone, then he really would be a dog. At that point, how would he be any different from Zhao Kunsen and Mu Bai? Saying profanities to him, that was only normal. 3 years ago, when he was just 13, he had the guts to point at Mu Juoyan and call him an old scoundrel. Now that he was 16, how could he possibly be afraid? Once bitten by a snake, 3 years shy from the rope, this phrase suited Mo Fan well. If a snake dared to bite him, he would definitely treat it like a rope and swing it away. When you were already seen as an ant in someone's eyes, there was no way to escape that colossal foot. You might as well curse them until you were satisfied. Brother Juoyan, do you agree? Deng Kai acted as mediator. Currently, the argument and swearing had been witnessed by the entire school. If they could direct this ugly affair toward a fair magic duel, that would naturally be the best option. Expelling Mo Fan would be meaningless and would cause the school to lose a genius. Being able to take the #1 spot in Tianlan Magic High meant he was indeed a good seedling. Chapter End. Versatile Mage. Chapter 32 Brother Fan, where are your morals? As Mu Ningzhu heard this, her forehead creased. My adopted son, Yu Ang, is the same age as you. I'll have him duel you, Mu Juoyan said. Or, Mu Ningzhu wanted to say something. Mu Juoyan didn't give Mu Ningzhu a chance to speak, turning toward Deng Kai and saying, Deng Kai, I know you tend to look after the younger generation. However, even you saw this kid speaking so rudely to me. I have taken a step back, letting him have a chance to measure his ability with my adoptive son, Yu Ang. If he loses, then this kid will kowtow to me until I'm completely satisfied. If he wins, I will apologize. The lousy matter from 3 years ago, I, Mu Juoyan, naturally did not place in my eyes. As Mu Bai and Mu He heard this, a smile suddenly emerged on their faces. Yu Ang, let Yu Ang deal with it. Mu Juoyan sure was shrewd. He guessed that Mu Ningxui's sudden stance was most likely to help this kid exonerate himself. How could Mu Juoyan possibly let Mo Fan off the hook so easily? Even if Mu Ningzhu wholeheartedly wanted to help him dissolve this matter, he would definitely not suppress his tone. Yu Ang was the cultivation lunatic of the Mu family. Whenever someone mentioned this person, their whole body would feel a chill. If they were to let Yu Ang handle this matter, then it was guaranteed that Mo Fan would suffer a miserable defeat. The regulations of the Magic Association state that both of the parties involved in a magic duel need to be 18 years old. Thus, allow me, Deng Kai, to act as a witness for this matter. The day when Mo Fan and Yu Ang have both reached the age of 18, they will engage in a magic duel. Deng Kai said sincerely. Mu Juoyan coldly hummed. Mo Fan nodded his head. I'd have a bit of difficulty making my move against a woman, thus, switching to a man is good. I'll beat him until his father won't recognize him. As Mu Juoyan heard Mo Fan still slandering him, he was so enraged he blew into his beard. Wait and see. During the magic duel at the age of 18, we'll make you lose your pride and cover your body with wounds. The Magic Association, the Hunters Union, and the Magic Schools, these organizations unconditionally protected the magic students. However, as soon as they reached 18, they came of age. Magicians would then have to hold responsibility for their own actions. At the moment, Mu Juoyan had no need to lower himself to the same level as a sharp-mouthed kid. In 2 years, when he had come of age, Mu Juoyan might as well let him hover between life and death. Mu Juoyan had gotten so angry that he already left. The principal and the others naturally followed behind him. As Mu Ningzhu was leaving, she gave Mo Fan a meaningful look. She wanted to say something but, at the same time, didn't know what to say. Mo Fan knew Mu Ningzhu was helping him. Her trying to deal with this matter personally was far better than Mu Juoyan personally dealing with it. If someone of Mu Juoyan's level were to make a move, they would bring a deadly strike against Mo Fan and his family. Unfortunately, her plan was seen through by her father, Mu Juoyan. Mu Juoyan knew that Mu Ningzhu would be lenient, and thus he switched to a different person. The cultivation madman of the Mu family, Yu Ang, would deal with Mo Fan. Yu Ang was very obedient to Mu Juoyan. If Mu Juoyan wanted Yu Ang to kill Mo Fan, Yu Ang would do it without hesitation. Mu Juoyan had no reason to be lenient toward a little thing that dared to swear at him. For now, he would just let Mo Fan pass the time at school in ease for 2 years. Once Mo Fan graduated, Mu Juoyan would have him see that going against the Mu family was just asking for trouble. The disturbance finally calmed down and petered out. All of the students looked at Mo Fan, who had been turned into a divine student, as they were reminded of his actions just now. None of them knew what to say. This Mo Fan was crazy. Against the Mu family, a magic household and a noble one, they could pull out anyone and still be able to pressure Tianlan Magic High. What made this extremely clear was the fact that Mu Bai, an elite student within Tianlan Magic High, was just a branch disciple within the Mu family. Although Mo Fan's performance today had indeed startled everybody, that did not mean he had the qualifications to provoke a colossal family like the Mu family. Originally, he could have become a dragon. Now, there was basically no difference between him and Trash, who didn't know of the Mu family being the largest in Bo City. If you offended the Mu family, then how could you continue to survive in Bo City? Within the school, there was barely the holy ground to protect you. Once you were out in society, you would definitely be dealt with until you had become a tragic sight. Willful, why was he so willful? The opportunity so many people were hoping for was dropped by Mo Fan's willfulness, leaving behind a colossal foe. Brother Fan, you are too cool. We are scared to death by Master Mu Juoyan, but only you would call him an old scoundrel over and over again. Haha, in fact, many of us also call him an old scoundrel on the inside. Zhang Xiao, whose temperament was somewhat shy, but he had a particular adoration for Mo Fan. Mo Fan was the king of the children within this area of the city. Back in the days, he could gather masses with a single call. Even Zhao Kunsen mingled with big brother Mo Fan. Only after that incident did Zhao Kunsen start to rely on Mu Bai, and many others no longer dared to play with Mo Fan. Zhang Xiaohe was devoted to Mo Fan. No matter what kind of over-the-boundary thing Mo Fan had done, he would still lift even his feet to clap in admiration. Zhang Xiaohe knew of the matter from 3 years ago, and now that he had seen Mo Fan striking back without hesitation or fear, he began to admire Mo Fan even more. He would never be as bold as Mo Fan in his lifetime. Then, do you think Mu Ningzu has been charmed by me? Mo Fan said as he raised his eyebrow in satisfaction. That's hard to say. After all, that old scoundrel is her father, Zhang Xiaohe replied. I feel really good today. When I go to the cafeteria later, I'll get an extra fried egg. Mo Fan patted Zhang Xiaohe's shoulder as he felt a flush of success, before walking towards the cafeteria. Haha, if you saw the looks on Mu Bai and Zhao Kunsen, then you'd definitely feel even better, Zhang Xiaohe said as he vented his resentment. That henchman, Zhao Kunsen, had really been beaten until his face had swollen up. Xiaohe bet Kunsen couldn't even dream of Mo Fan's cultivation being higher than his by more than a level. Whereas Mu Bai, there's no need to say more about that. All he did was act like someone he was not and assault the poor on a regular basis. And what was the result of that? In the end, the wise martial god, Brother Fan, still got rid of him. Forget it, Mu Bai really was trying to curry favor with Mu He like a son. He just wanted Mu He to help him enter the Mu family's inner court and cultivate together with the core disciples. In the end, that old scoundrel didn't even take a look at him at all. Instead, he was fixated on Mo Fan. What really stupefied people was that Mo Fan had directly thrown away what Mu Bai dreamt of like it was trash, while at the same time, he even made the old scoundrel lose face. Refreshing, it was truly refreshing. Xiaohe didn't understand what that old scoundrel, Mu Juoyan, was thinking. 3 years ago, the old scoundrel had already experienced Mo Fan's viper tongue and vicious temperament. Yet, today, he attempted to dismiss the former debt, which merely resulted in Mo Fan slandering him greatly without holding back. He reckoned Mu Juoyan's blood pressure today had risen by a lot. However, Brother Fan, if that old scoundrel really gave his daughter to you along with a dowry, while begging you to join the Mu family, would you really decline? Zhang Xiaohe whispered. Of course not. Damn. Brother Fan, where are your morals? What you said does make sense. Mo Fan suddenly rubbed his chin as he pondered. You also think you don't have morals? Xiaohe wondered. Get out of here. I'm saying that the old scoundrel's apology is useless. It'd be better if he just gave his daughter to me with a dowry. Mo Fan answered. Chapter End. Versatile Mage. Chapter 33 Stardust Magic Tool. Brother Fan, you should stop daydreaming. That Yuang really is abnormal. We don't even know if you will see the sunlight of your second day as an 18-year-old. You should just stop wishing to marry the little princess. Yuang. Humph. Watch me make him look for his teeth on the floor. In the past, Mo Fan would consider whether he was capable of opposing the whole Mu family. So how could the current Mo Fan be afraid of merely the disciples in the younger generations? The fire in his left hand would scorch their outsides crisp and their insides tender, while the lightning in his right hand would lacerate their flesh. The final results of the annual examination had been released. When the large blackboard showed Mo Fan in first place, numerous people rubbed their eyes in disbelief. How was this Mo Fan so amazing? His examination results were surprisingly impressive. How did he surpass even the lightning element's Zhu Zhaoting, and that Mu Bai from the ice elemental family? The matter with the grades had already caused many people to widen their eyes. The matter of Mo Fan cursing Mu Juoyan in front of everyone, and challenging a disciple of the Mu family with the school supervisors as witnesses, had quickly spread amongst the students. As a result, it didn't take long before Mo Fan became famous in the school. Not only did he become a divine student of the school in a flash, Even more surprising was that he was the most reckless student in all of Bo City. Those with some experience understood that Tianlan Magic High wasn't for your average magicians. There were some impressive students within the 1,500 student body. Sure, however, it was simply not on the same level as certain magic highs and the noble families with deep foundations. The Hunters Union, Magic Association, big families, and noble families, any random magician from them would be enough to suppress all of them. The school was certainly a good choice for both grassroots and prodigies. However, that didn't mean you could go challenge those second-generation wizards. Mo Fan didn't care about the gossip happening around the school. Other than meditating and practicing spellcasting, he would eat and sleep. The only thing worth mentioning was that Mo Fan was placed within the elite class. The elite class had 100 individuals total. They were all in a large classroom and practiced in a large training ground. The students in the elite class were generally capable of controlling 7 stars. It was just that they weren't proficient enough in spellcasting. Thus, when it was time for practical classes, each of the elite elemental students demonstrated their magical prowess. The teacher for the practical classes remained Mrs. Tang Yu. It was said that this newly arrived practical teacher's cultivation had far surpassed any of the other practical teachers within the school. Even though she hadn't been in the school for more than half a year, the elite class practical classes were being taught by her. The homeroom teacher of the elite class also remained Zhu Musheng. His class had 2 S-grade students. If he wasn't the homeroom teacher for the elite class, who else could it be? It was because of Mo Fan that Zhu Musheng obtained so many benefits from the school supervisors. Naturally, the school supervisors had repeatedly instructed Zhu Musheng to fix Mo Fan's rebellious temperament. Zhu Musheng got a headache over this matter. He felt that whether Mo Fan was a failure in school or a divine student, he was just like Buddha, hard to please. The new term went by, and yet another month passed in a flash. The homeroom teacher, Zhu Musheng, was standing in the elite class and coughed, signaling everyone to control their excitement. Why were the students so excited today? Today was the day where the school distributed the Stardust magic tools to the elite class. There was naturally another benefit to being students of the elite class other than having the best teachers. The reason behind why those large magic associations and ancient magic families were so much further ahead, excluding their abundant knowledge, secrets, and experience, was the most important factor: the Stardust magic tool. Let's put it like this: experience, knowledge, secrets, and teachings would be the software, whereas the Stardust magic tool would be the most important hardware. Other large ancient families had all sorts of software, and their technology was first-rate. Even if an average magician could learn everything from school, they still wouldn't have the hardware that could compare to the ancient families. That is to say, this Stardust magic tool was quite valuable. It was capable of nurturing the soul and cultivation, and it would relieve the fatigue the magician experienced after meditation, allowing them to continue practicing. To put it simply, it was like a cooler, decreasing the cooldown of meditation. There was no way around it. Mo Fan wasn't a paid player. He naturally had to go through the school to obtain the necessary cultivation resources. The competition in school was intense. It was simply like gold and sand. Fortunately, he was firmly placed in first rank. Thus, the magic resources he obtained from the school wouldn't be a small amount. This way, he would be able to cultivate in peace. The usage time for the Stardust magic tool will be based on the rankings of your annual examination. The higher you are placed, the longer you will be allowed to use it. Naturally, our school is very fair, and thus we will conduct an examination every quarter of the year and rearrange the rankings. The Stardust magic tool usage will then change according to the new ranking. The other thing to take note of is that you are currently the students of the elite class, and you possess an advantage a common class doesn't have. However, don't believe for a second that your position is safe. During the quarterly examination, the last 10 people will directly be downgraded to the common class, and the top 10 of the common class will be upgraded to the elite class. Thus, the pressure of the competition is increasingly high. Zhu Musheng said. This part was no different than his previous world. Mo Fan didn't think anything of it. There were a lot of people who didn't like school, and even more who didn't like high school exams. However, there was one phrase that wasn't wrong. How are you going to stand on equal ground with a wealthy second generation if you don't have an education or take tests? The school's cultivation resources were not necessarily worse than the large ancestral families. The only difference was that the schools had gold and sand. You'd also have to agree with one phrase. Only gold is able to shine. Mo Fan, as the number one in class, you ought to be the first to use the Stardust magic tool, and also have it for the longest duration. However, due to your disrespect toward your elders during the annual examination, the time you are allowed to use it has been changed to 10 days, down from a month. This is your penalty, Zhu Musheng said with a solemn face. From a month to 10 days. That penalty is way too harsh. If he could hold himself back from being so impudent, then the 1 month worth of time would be enough to pull him far ahead of many others, some students started to discuss. If he were to bluntly lower his head and agree to joining the Mu family, then he'd most likely receive even more. Yeah. Why is he so stubborn? Zhu Musheng glared, causing the students to quiet down. Mo Fan, do you have any objections regarding this penalty? Zhu Musheng asked. I do not, Mo Fan replied. Mo Fan naturally needed a Stardust magic tool. His cultivation time was already longer than that of others, and with the help of the Stardust magic tool, he would be able to do half the work for twice the results. However, it would only have this effect if used continuously over a long period of time. If it was used only in short intervals, it would bring very little value to Mo Fan. 10 days of use. They would do nothing for him. Green Tea Man, let me ask you a question. Mo Fan approached the table of Mu Bai next to him with a solemn expression. What the hell did you just call me? Mu Bai's violent temperament immediately appeared. Mu Bai, let me ask you a question. Chapter End. Versatile Mage. Chapter 34 The Little Loach Pendant. If you've got things to say it. Mu Bai was bitter. He didn't want to look at Mo Fan for even a second. Unfortunately, Mo Fan was strange. For him to have something to ask Mu Bai was unexpected. The two should have been irreconcilable. That guy named Yuang, is he in possession of a Stardust magic tool for all 365 days of the year? Mo Fan asked. Mu Bai laughed coldly and said, originally, he was only allowed to use it for 3 to 4 months per year. But thanks to you, he is now permitted to use it for longer than half a year at a time. Mo Fan nodded and continued asking, I've already provoked the old scoundrel to this extent, yet he still doesn't give that guy called Yuang one for a whole year. Is it that the old scoundrel is too greedy, or is he just underestimating me? Do you think the Stardust magic tool is just a rock on the sidewalk, something you can find in abundance? The entire family has so many disciples, so the Stardust magic tool definitely has to be shared in turns. Within the family, only Mu Ningzhu has a spirit-grade Stardust magic tool which she keeps on at all times, Mu Bai said, looking down on Mo Fan. Spirit-grade Stardust magic tool. The Stardust magic tools have different grades. Mo Fan asked in shock. He knew of the effects of the Stardust magic tool, but he wasn't aware that there were different grades. Mu Bai looked at Mo Fan as though he was looking at an idiot. This fool knows nothing. Just how did he cultivate to S grade? Mu Bai, proud of his knowledge, wanted to show off. So, while despising Mo Fan on one hand, he explained on the other, Stardust magic tools naturally have good and bad ones. The soul-nourishing magic tools that we normally encounter are basically all common grade. I reckon there are only a very few spirit grade ones in all of Bo City. What effects do the spirit grade ones have? Mo Fan continued asking. Common grade increases cultivation time by roughly 20% every day. Spirit grade increases cultivation time by 40%, Mu Bai sneered. As he spoke about the spirit grade Stardust magic tools, Mu Bai's entire being revealed his fascination. To people like him, who had only just taken their first step onto the road of cultivation, these spirit grade Stardust magic tools were simply perfect. Possessing one would easily allow him to surpass his peers. I see. Mo Fan nodded. One that could reduce accumulated fatigue by 20% and one that could reduce it by 40%. Mo Fan could easily understand the difference. Don't get too ahead of yourself. The cultivation magic tool you obtained is yours for only 10 days. Whereas I will have mine for a whole month. I'll quickly surpass you by thousands of miles. Mu Bai declared without hesitation, pouring cold water over Mo Fan. Mo Fan didn't mind. Quarreling with nobodies like Mu Bai and Zhao Kunsen would simply lower his status. His real enemies were the inner disciples of the Mu family who possessed rich resources. He planned to surmount all difficulties, make that old scoundrel promise his daughter, and deliver her dowry right to him. Remember, the Stardust magic tools are very, very precious. You must not in any way damage them. Moreover, once the time is up, you must return them. I've already reminded you. This isn't something you can casually make trouble with. Zhu Musheng said sternly. Night fell, and the dormitory lights were turned off. Darkness covered the entire campus. On the roof of the school building, Mo Fan sat on top of a large water storage tank, playing with the Stardust magic tool he had received that day. The Stardust magic tool was a tiny, azure-colored dust stone set within a precious casing. One could tell how much the school valued it. The tool had been polished, with a white chain passing through it so cultivators could wear it like a pendant on their chest. Does it work as soon as I put it on? Mo Fan wondered aloud. Lowering his head, Mo Fan slowly put the Stardust magic tool on. Since the chain was a bit long, it ended up lying on his chest. Ding! Suddenly, an unfathomable tapping sound came from Mo Fan's chest. Mo Fan was stunned before realizing the cause. He was wearing another necklace, a loach-shaped pendant, pitch black in color. He remembered that on the day he awakened his element, this thing had vibrated incessantly. The Stardust magic tool must have bumped into his loach pendant, explaining the sound. Speaking of which, just what was this loach pendant? Mo Fan had tried researching it before, but he failed. He was convinced that the loach pendant was related to the changes in the world. The loach pendant was the legacy of the old gatekeeper of the school's back mountain, Old Man Ying. That day, Mo Fan had been wearing it while sleeping in the old man's thatched cottage when the whole world mysteriously changed, or perhaps he had transmigrated into a different parallel world. He still wasn't sure which. Mo Fan always wore the loach pendant. He worried that removing it might cause everything to return to normal, and he wasn't about to lose lightning strike and flame burst after going through so much trouble to learn them. Forget it, don't worry about that. I should focus on my cultivation. That guy Yuang won't be easy to deal with. And if that old scoundrel really is going to deliver his daughter to me, I'll need incredible power. Mo Fan thought. Putting down the loach pendant, Mo Fan used his intent to connect with the Stardust magic tool. Intent appeared when a magician's spiritual mind reached a formidable level. By focusing intent and locking onto something, one could perceive the peculiar fluctuations of magic ability, and one's senses of hearing, smell, sight, and touch would sharpen beyond those of ordinary people. Strange. There's no reaction. Zhu Musheng said that as long as you enter it with your intent and leave behind a spiritual imprint, the Stardust magic tool will transmit its nourishing energy to your body, relieving spiritual fatigue. Mo Fan tried several times but didn't feel the wonderful response Zhu Musheng had described. The loach pendant has overflowing energy. Shocked, Mo Fan hastily probed the loach pendant with his intent. As he did so, he felt as though he had landed in a hot spring. Silky warmth spread through him, slowly dispelling his exhaustion while clearing his spiritual world and making him feel tranquil and comfortable. He felt no agitation, no anxiety, His mind had never been so at ease before. Mo Fan had already cultivated for 10 hours that day. Normally, he would have gone to sleep. But now, with the loach pendant's warmth alleviating his fatigue, he felt like he could keep going a while longer. Oh crap, what is this? The Stardust magic tool from the school was useless. Instead, the loach pendant, which he had always worn, was producing the effect the Stardust magic tool should have had. Is it possible that this loach pendant is actually a Stardust magic tool? Mo Fan's heart began to race with excitement. Chapter End. Versatile Mage. Chapter 35 Growth Type Stardust Magic Tool. Wrong. There's something wrong. I used my intent to probe it before, but the loach pendant was like the Dead Sea. So why did it become a spirit-nourishing hot spring today? While at the same time, the school's Stardust magic tool that should have some effect just happens to be out of use. Sheet. Don't tell me the loach pendant absorbed the Stardust magic tool's internal energy. Mo Fan suddenly made an astonished wild guess. Mo Fan immediately concentrated his intent once more. This time, he quickly probed the fluctuations between the two magic tools. As expected, Mo Fan could feel the Stardust magic tool had a trace of hidden energy in its deepest parts. However, this trace of energy was currently shifting. Accurately speaking, this freaking loach pendant took a straw and started to suck in the energy from the school's Stardust magic tool. If I only realized this later, then I wouldn't have been able to find any kind of evidence. Freaking hell, little loach, I never thought that you'd actually have some skill. After hiding it for so long, you finally revealed it, Mo Fan swore as he grabbed the loach pendant with one hand. Little loach, go die loach. Hurry and compensate my Stardust magic tool. How am I supposed to cultivate when you've drained all of its energy? However, the loach pendant just released some energy for me to use. What I should worry about is how I'm supposed to explain to the school regarding this empty shell of a Stardust magic tool. Furthermore, this little loach pendant that I swear at every day, seems to really be a freaking Stardust magic tool. Mo Fan felt his own brain was not enough to process this. This information was too explosive. Calm down, I have to calm down. I have to hurry and get to the end of this matter. Mo Fan continued sitting there, studying the two tools. He realized the little loach pendant he wore actually seemed to have the same function as a Stardust magic tool. Mo Fan tried to make the little loach pendant return the energy to the Stardust magic tool, but the loach pendant had no reaction. Mo Fan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The great thing about it was, the little loach pendant was actually a really amazing Stardust magic tool. The real tragedy was that the school's Stardust magic tool had been wasted. There was not a shred of energy left in it, it was just like a pebble by the riverbank. The school gave the Stardust magic tool to him for 10 days. After 10 days, he had to return it to them in its original state. It's not like he could tell Zhu Musheng that he was bored, and thus he decided to remodel the Stardust magic tool into a loach shape. He can't even begin to guess what kind of expression Zhu Musheng would have after he saw the small loach pendant. Mrs. Tang Yu is experienced and knowledgeable. Perhaps she knows the reason behind this. Mo Fan knew that him being blindly anxious would be of no use, so he hastily sought some help. Mrs. Tang Yu was Mo Fan's number one choice. After that time when Mrs. Tang Yu had seen through the schemes of Mu He and Mu Bai, Mo Fan and she had established a deep teacher-to-student trust. Mrs. Tang Yu, are you sleeping? Mo Fan called Mrs. Tang Yu's phone. I just changed into my pajamas, about to sleep. Tell me what you want. A sexy and gentle voice floated back to him. Mo Fan couldn't help but wonder about Mrs. Tang Yu's amazing appearance when wearing a transparent nightgown. My Stardust magic tool seemed to have a small problem. I don't know what to do right now. I could only call Mrs. Tang Yu to consult. Mo Fan assumed a pitiful student's demeanor. Where are you? After hearing Stardust magic tool, Mrs. Tang Yu seemed to turn somewhat serious. The Stardust magic tool was the most precious item in the school. If there was a problem, then it would be big. The third building's roof, on top of the dam. Alright, give me 3 minutes. Mrs. Tang Yu quickly hung up the phone. After hanging up the phone, Mo Fan began to think to himself, 3 minutes. How could Mrs. Tang Yu possibly come here from the teacher's dormitory? Even if Zhang Xiaohe were to use Wind Trail, I reckon he'd need 5 minutes. What's more, Mo Fan didn't think that Mrs. Tang Yu would come here without changing her attire. As Mo Fan was still indulging in his fantasies, a weak movement suddenly appeared on the pitch-black roof. This movement was extremely weak. If Mo Fan hadn't carefully noticed it from the beginning, he would have not seen it. It didn't seem to be an air fluctuations, nor was it the aura from elemental energy. The noiselessness caused him to feel somewhat terrified. Mo Fan. At last, a gentle and beautiful voice floated over. It's Mrs. Tang Yu. Mo Fan jumped in fright, hastily looking toward the open roof from his current location. The moonlight sprinkled over the intersection of the water pipes on the old roof. The black cloud's shadow was revealing a bright yet dark figure on the roof. The first thing that entered Mo Fan's vision was an indistinct silhouette emerging from the shadows. Immediately after, Mo Fan saw Mrs. Tang Yu wearing a long, woman's style coat coming out of the shadows of the dark clouds and into the area of moonlight. It felt like Mrs. Tang Yu had simply walked out of another door, extremely shocking. What kind of ability is this? Mo Fan couldn't help but take a deep breath. He didn't even hear footsteps from the corridor. Just how exactly did Mrs. Tang Yu come to the roof and emerge from the shadows? What's wrong with your Stardust magic tool? Mrs. Tang Yu suddenly leapt down and landed on the dam. The bright moon illuminated Mrs. Tang Yu's impressive physique. It made Mo Fan's heart ripple. I don't know either. I did everything according to what Zhu Musheng said. I don't know what happened, but the Stardust magic tool's energy suddenly disappeared, and then what? Mo Fan was hesitating. He was wondering whether he should tell Mrs. Tang Yu about the little loach pendant or not. However, his understanding of this world was far too little. If he did not tell her about this matter, then Mrs. Tang Yu might not believe him. And then the energy was transferred into my pendant, Mo Fan told her. Regardless of what it was, he should put trust in this teacher. On the one hand, it was very likely that Tang Yu would see through him. On the other hand, he didn't know how to explain this whole matter to the school. Him slandering Mu Juoyan, the school would turn a blind eye to. However, breaking the Stardust magic tool, that would give Mu He enough of a reason to kick him out of Tianlan Magic High. You're saying that the Stardust magic tool given to you by the school has had its energy transferred to your pendant? Tang Yu widened her bright eyes as she revealed a somewhat disbelieving expression. Yes. Mo Fan nodded. Where did your pendant come from? Tang Yu's expression had an obvious change. Heritage, Mo Fan replied. Tang Yu immediately turned silent. Furthermore, she used her intelligent eyes to look at Mo Fan and then at his pendant. Have you told this matter to anyone else? Tang Yu's expression was very serious as she said this to Mo Fan. Mo Fan couldn't help but feel startled. This was like a classic TV show where they'd murder someone for their belongings. Seeing the surroundings, the weather, the dark night, a certain student couldn't handle the pressure of studying magic. Thus, he jumped off the roof. Wasn't everything conforming to the script? Chapter end. Please guys like, comment, share and subscribe.